It is late. One desk lamp is on. The office is dark, and he sits frozen at his screen, not moving at all. The clock says 9:47 p.m. His keyboard is untouched. Minutes are passing, but nothing is happening except the silence. He is not crying. He is not collapsed. He is not telling anyone he is struggling or asking for help. Because he does not think this is depression. He thinks he is just tired. He thinks everyone probably feels this way. That hollow weight in his chest has been there so long, it feels normal now. He barely remembers life before it arrived. Look closer. His hand is wrapped too tightly around a cold coffee mug, the body revealing stress before words ever do. His jaw is clenched. His phone keeps buzzing on the desk. He sees it, and still he does not answer. At home, there is a half-empty glass of whiskey on the counter. From the outside, it still looks ordinary. At 5 a.m., he is on a treadmill, moving through the motions. Not energized, not focused, just numb and automatic. The pattern is the clue. Working late every night, drinking more than before, snapping at people, then apologizing because guilt builds faster than anger fades. This can be depression, even when nobody around him recognizes it, even when he does not recognize it in himself. The danger is not only a treatment gap, it is a recognition gap, the space between real symptoms and what people expect depression to look like. Many men never identify their own symptoms because the public image of depression was built to make them miss themselves. Ask someone to picture a depressed person. Usually, they imagine crying, staying in bed, looking fragile, visibly sad, visibly hopeless. That picture is real for some people. It matters, but it is only one symptom style, not the whole story. The common picture foregrounds symptoms like crying, sadness, loss of interest, and visible hopelessness. Many men do not show distress that way. And the man in the dark office does not match that profile. He looks functional, controlled, productive, and therefore easy to overlook. So the consequence is simple. Because he does not fit the picture, he never sees himself anywhere inside it. A standard depression checklist appears, making the mismatch concrete instead of abstract. On paper, the questions seem clear enough. Questions like little interest or feeling hopeless may be accurate, but the wording still may not land for him at all. The checklist was not built to exclude men. It simply emphasizes symptoms men often report less directly or translate into other behaviors. This is not because men have alien brains. The difference is usually in expression, how distress gets converted, disguised, and acted out. Many boys learn early that raw sadness is unacceptable, so it gets converted into behaviors that look tougher, cleaner, and more acceptable. A boy falls, scrapes his knee, starts to cry, and hears the familiar correction. You're okay, shake it off, keep moving. Years later, the same boy sits in his car after work, staring at the wheel, unable to move and unable to name it. Repeated correction teaches boys that tears invite discomfort or dismissal, while anger looks stronger, cleaner, and strangely easier for everyone around them. So sadness gets rerouted. It becomes irritability, silence, overwork, busyness, and the kind of distance that passes as normal adulthood. When suppression becomes the main survival skill, emotional vocabulary shrinks. He feels pressure, restlessness, or anger, but cannot name sadness underneath. Researchers sometimes call this masked male loneliness, pain hidden behind functioning, isolation concealed by routines that look ordinary or admirable. He may never describe himself as lonely, even when loneliness is the engine underneath the anger, the drinking, and the endless distraction. One common mask is irritability, because anger often feels more active, more permitted, and less exposing than helplessness or grief. Another mask is overwork, because staying productive can feel safer than stopping long enough to notice what hurts when home gets quiet. Drinking, compulsive exercise, and endless scrolling can all function as numbing, while still looking like routine from the outside. Sometimes it sounds like cynicism that passes for wisdom, or a flat emotional tone that gets mistaken for calm maturity. The mask can become so seamless that even the person wearing it no longer recognizes it as a mask at all. In the mirror, one part of him looks hollow and exhausted, while the face he presents stays neutral, controlled, and unreadable. Here is the harder truth. The same traits that hide male depression are often the exact traits society rewards and applauds. Working late every night gets called dedication, when it may actually be avoidance, collapse delayed, or simply not wanting to go home. Never complaining gets praised as strength, even when it really reflects emotional constriction, shutdown, or a lifetime of practice suppression. Pushing through pain gets labeled resilience, even when it is really disconnection from self, from feeling, and from the need for help. A quietly depressed man can look exactly like the ideal worker, steady provider, or dependable friend everyone trusts without question. Co-workers call him reliable, disciplined, fine. He keeps walking with a blank face, receiving praise that completely misses what is happening inside. Nobody sees someone in need, because his symptoms wear the same shape as admired masculinity: stoic, productive, controlled, always available. He is not hiding depression so much as performing it in the only language he was ever taught to speak. So what do we do with this, for men themselves and for the people who love them enough to notice? First, stop asking only whether he feels sad. That question may miss the whole pattern, and close the door immediately. Name the things he may actually recognize: anger, exhaustion, irritability, overwork, or emotional numbness. Those are often the real entry points. Use his language. I've noticed you've been snapping more, or staying late every night. Concrete observations feel less threatening than labels. Ask what he's avoiding when he comes home, not for a polished feelings report he may not know how to give. Recognition has to enter through the door he already uses, not the door you wish he would use instead. Sometimes it looks like two men sitting on a porch, talking sideways, with no eye contact and no dramatic setup. One small sentence lands, and the other man's shoulders drop just a little. Relief often begins so quietly, you could miss it. Second, understand that many men connect better shoulder to shoulder than face to face, especially when the subject feels exposing. Do not force a quiet, emotional interrogation, and call that the only honest path. Pressure can shut honesty down fast. Do something together instead. Drive, walk, fix something, lift weights, cook dinner, or just watch the road ahead. Action lowers the pressure. When hands are busy and eyes are forward, words often arrive indirectly and in their own time. This has a name: side-by-side bonding, a pattern male friendship has understood for a very long time. In a garage or workshop, conversation can slip out naturally in the quiet spaces between one task and the next. Modern life strips many of those spaces away, leaving men with fewer low-pressure routes into closeness, honesty, and being seen. Connection does not require a perfect speech. Very often, it begins with simply being in the same physical space together. Third move, and maybe the hardest. If you recognize yourself here, this part is for you, directly, without drama or apology. Do not wait until next week. Do not wait until you feel ready. Readiness often never arrives with a clear announcement. Back in the dark office, his phone is in his hand, thumb hovering over one contact name he already knows. That space between deciding and doing is where change begins. Not after the talk, but in this silent second before action. Here is the assignment. Within the next hour, send one message to one person. Keep it that small and that concrete. It does not need to say, "I'm depressed." It does not need to say, "I need help." Leave those lines out. Try something ordinary. "Hey, I've been off lately. Can we grab a beer this week?" Or "walk on Saturday." The wording is not the point. The point is asking to be in the same physical space as another human being. You do not need a full explanation before you reach out. You are allowed to contact someone before you understand everything. You do not need a plan for the whole conversation either. You only need to open the door a crack. When isolation has gone on too long, small contact matters more than perfect insight. Imperfect outreach still beats staying sealed off. Often, the body trusts company before the mind can find clean language. Presence can arrive first. The explanation can wait. Now the drafted text sits there on the screen, and the send button glows with all the weight of possibility. Pause there for a second. Even tiny outreach can feel enormous when numbness has been worn so long, it feels like identity. A lot of men are not failing at life. They are misreading symptoms, mistaking distress for character, habit, or personality. He may call himself lazy, mean, burnt out, restless, or broken, when depression is the thing underneath those names. Untreated depression can dress itself up as ambition, sarcasm, perfectionism, or emotional detachment, and pass unnoticed for years. Recognizing the pattern early can interrupt years of unnecessary shame before the story hardens into, "This is just who I am." And for the people who love him, stop waiting for dramatic collapse before you take subtle signs seriously. Those signs may be more work, shorter temper, worse sleep, and routines that keep going long after joy disappears. Start with what you see, not what you accuse. Men cornered by judgment usually defend first, then disappear deeper inside themselves. Use a calm, specific sentence. "I've noticed you seem more shut down lately." It lands better than vague worry or blame. Practical help counts too. Offer a walk, a drive, or help finding professional care. Make the next step concrete and reachable. If things move toward danger, act faster. At that point, urgency matters more than preserving comfort, privacy, or somebody's preference. Depression does not become less real because it wears a masculine costume. Different presentation does not mean smaller pain or lower risk. When this gets missed, relationships erode, health declines, and hope narrows quietly. The damage often spreads long before anyone names it. That man in the office is not an exception. He stands in for millions whose distress looks ordinary enough to be ignored. Many men get praised right up to the edge of collapse because their suffering arrives disguised as discipline, productivity, and reliability. So this is the moment to replace the old stereotype with a better map, one that matches how male distress often actually appears. Anger, overwork, numbing, isolation, flatness, guilt, relentless functioning. Any of these can be warning signs, even without obvious sadness. Now the room goes quiet again. The phone stays in his hand, and the next move belongs entirely to this moment. Recognition matters because language changes what pain can do in the dark. What is named becomes harder to mistake for character. If he can name the pattern, he is already less trapped than he was 10 minutes ago. Awareness opens space before solutions arrive. And if someone else names it with care, they may become the first person who has really looked closely enough to see him. Remember the first surprise. In men, depression often looks less like visible sadness and more like controlled deterioration over time. That is why so much of it hides in plain sight, behind competence, routine, and the praise that keeps masking it. So look closer at the men who seem fine but have gone emotionally dim. Fine is not always the same as okay. Look for patterns, not stereotypes. Then answer with presence first, before you demand a confession or a perfect explanation. He's not crying. He's not saying he is sad. He's just trying, maybe for once, to open the door. The content barely matters. The message exits his phone. And now, finally, someone might be looking closely enough to see what's actually there.